All right, welcome to another episode of the Blue Bloods College Game Time. Man, it's week 11.
Wow.
It's Trey Smith.
It's your boy, Brandon Holmes, man. Welcome to Blue Bloods College Game Time podcast for the fans, by the fans. We started at week 0, and here we are, dude. This has been a fast season.
Too fast. Man, I'm sitting here looking at some conference standings right now as we're kind of getting to that last little stretch. It's like we're on the last 100 meters of the college football season before we get to bowl season. And, man, I'm looking at Houston. Houston and the American Athletic. It's going to be them and Cincinnati in that conference championship. Like, we haven't talked about Houston. No one's really talking about Houston. They've just quietly crept to 9-1, 7-0 conference record.
They have.
You know, we were big on SMU, but Houston took care of them, and it's
huge on SMU.
It appears the table is being set for possibly an 11-1 Houston versus a 12-0 Cincinnati in the conference championship. But Cincinnati still has to play SMU, so got some big games in the ACC upcoming next week. Wake and Pitt could
conference
both
title
clinch.
championships aspirations.
Baylor,
Yep.
They made a case yesterday beating OU. Now that Bedlam game's going to carry some significant weight as to who plays. Because I believe Oklahoma State has the tiebreaker over Baylor, but Baylor has the tiebreaker now over OU. But I probably need to do a little more research on this because I think the Big 12's tiebreakers are a little bit different. I'm still assuming that the head-to-head takes priority over everything, but I don't know if you caught.
And then scoring margin.
Say it again. Yeah, because
then I
you
think
saw how
margin after that. Yeah, he kicked the field goal.
Yeah, because that was the whole thing. Yeah, right. Because Lincoln Riley was all butthurt about that, and then Aranda was like, "Whoa, it's the conference tie-breaking rules. Like, that's why we kicked the field goal. We won't,
Right.
Big Ten. We've been talking about the Big Ten.
That's my whole mentality.
We've been talking about how the Big Ten.
It comes down to the next 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks in the Big Ten are next week's game, Ohio State versus Michigan State, really is going to determine how big the game is on Thanksgiving Day weekend.
Man.
That is like Ohio State has 2 big back-to-back games to play. So does Michigan State, though, because Penn State's not a tough out either. I mean, they're not an easy out. So
right.
It's coming down to 2 weeks, man. Big Ten's SEC too, man. They had a big game last night, A&M versus Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Huge game. That played a lot on what's going to kind of probably happen over the next couple of weeks. I mean, Georgia's Georgia, but it's interesting to see what's going on in the SEC.
Well, the SEC West, man, which is usually just a 1 or 2 horse race, now all of a sudden it's become, I mean, I guess at this point it's Ole Miss and Bama. Bama still controls their own destiny, but they've got Arkansas, which, look, they should win. They've got Auburn, and I've been saying this for weeks now. Despite how bad Auburn looked yesterday, I've just had this feeling that they've got a chance in the Iron Bowl this year. I don't know what that is. I don't know why. It's just a feeling. And I know, again, it's the complete opposite of how I've started the season where no one's beating Bama. But
right.
And call me crazy. But I'm not so ready to just wipe out Arkansas's chances. I mean, I know that is crazy.
Oh, yeah, you guys still have.
And part of it's, you win 3 in a row and suddenly you get back into ultra homer mode. And we've had 2 big wins over Mississippi State, who just had a big win over Auburn Saturday.
Yeah.
And then we beat LSU, and it was a very similar game with LSU that Alabama played with LSU. And I don't know, but it's on the road. I mean, it would literally take Arkansas playing the best game in the history and Alabama not quite being up to par. So that's all I'm going to say on it. I just know
we'll see what happens.
But yeah, I mean, all Ole Miss really needs is and all they really need is Bama to lose a game, and much easier said than done. But
yeah.
And then who do they? Oh, I mean, I guess they've got Mississippi State. So they got Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl.
I'm
they
so
got Vandy
mad.
and then the Egg Bowl.
I wish we would have had if we wouldn't have had to have Georgia as our crossover.
You guys had a
this
rough
year.
schedule.
Yeah.
You
Again.
guys had a rough schedule.
But I'm looking, Mississippi State. Again, I believe Ole Miss should beat Mississippi State, but I'm trying to understand what team they have. I'm thinking, they're overrated last week. Arkansas should beat them. Arkansas beats them in a nail-biter, last-second type deal,
Right.
missed field goal. And I'm thinking, well, maybe that wasn't as big of a win, but at least it'll get us in the top 25. The AP poll dissed us, but then the college football CFP, college football playoff put us in. Feeling good about that.
Right.
Then Mississippi State comes in and really, dominates Auburn yesterday.
Dude, dominate them.
Like, who is this team?
They killed them. They
But
killed
then-
them, man. It was really shocking.
Go ahead.
No,
I have one last thing to say on this with Ole Miss, because, and this maybe just transitions smoothly into the pick'ems. I'll just kind of go there. So we'll start week 11.
Okay.
Let's just get into it. Pick'ems. My first one is I had A&M -2.5. Well, my thought process behind that was this: Ole Miss has really struggled to stop the run. Now, maybe for me, I'm just getting too hung up on when we played them, the Arkansas Ole Miss game, when neither team could stop the run, and it was just this shootout that came down to a 2-point conversion. So I'm thinking that's A&M's strength. It's definitely not their quarterback play. It's their running game. And so I'm going, okay, Ole Miss has struggled to stop the run. A&M's been playing phenomenal defense since they beat Bama. I mean, they've been playing phenomenal defense. And then that game Saturday, Ole Miss made A&M look like the A&M of the first 4 weeks of the season. I mean, they were.
No, that's true.
I get that the score ended up getting closer, but, and I know he lives and dies by this. If Lane Kiffin doesn't leave points on the field, that's an even bigger.
That's a bigger gap.
That's right. Bigger gap than what the final score shows, because in my opinion, Ole Miss dominated that game.
Oh, yeah. Start to finish. Wasn't close.
And so now I'm looking going, okay, this Ole Miss team, their defense, and maybe I just hadn't watched them that much since we played them, but their defense is playing pretty dang good. And their offense is going to put up points. So now I'm looking, geez, are they going to mess around and end up in the SEC championship for the first time in program history, I believe? I don't think Ole Miss has ever been to one. And Arkansas has been to 3 in the short time compared to them we've been in the conference. Hadn't won any of them, but whatever.
Shout out Tommy Brooker. He's definitely going to text me about that statement.
I mean, it's true. So then we got NC State +2. It was the exact kind of game I thought it was going to be. It was the exact kind of game. NC State, Wake Forest. It's just it tipped Wake Forest winning by a field goal rather than NC State winning by the field goal. And I think if you go back and listen to last week, that was my exact – or I'm sorry, when we did the pick'em on Friday, I think that's what I said.
Friday.
I see this being a field goal deciding game that NC State wins. Minnesota +5. I think that was a push. Iowa.
I thought it was a decent
Iowa
pick. It was a decent pick because Iowa's starting quarterback was out. So I actually meant to text you that. I saw that. I was like, oh man, it could happen. I didn't even know that, but it was a good pick.
Didn't.
Yeah,
it did not. I was just kind of on the PJ Fleck train for that pick and figured I'd take the points.
They did not.
And then I had TCU Oklahoma State over, and I'm pretty sure Oklahoma State covered the over under themselves in that game. So
yes, they did. Yeah, man. For me, man, I went. We'll go from the bottom up. SMU versus UCF. Took that. That was a win, man. Tanner Mordecai, those guys got back on the horse. They dominated UCF from top to finish. It was good. We're looking to see how they finish the next 2 games over the season. I took the under in this Wisconsin versus Northwestern, under 41. I missed it by like a point. Wisconsin put up like 35. Northwestern ended up scoring like a touchdown in the last second. So, I didn't think – I thought Wisconsin would maybe get 28, but they busted like a 98-yard run and, whatever. So you take that. Yeah. I did take Ole Miss over Texas A&M. Feel good about that.
You did.
My Ole Miss insider guy told me, man, Ole Miss was going to be full strength on offense. And so you saw it last night. They were full strength. That's what Ole Miss looks like when they're healthy, when they're humming. Yes. And so I thought that was going to happen.
Lethal.
And then, man, I'll go back to what you said. If Kiffin, shout out Tommy Brooker again, because he texted me during the game when he goes for the fake field goal, and he's like, why does he freaking do this to us? And I'm just like, yeah, man, if Kiffin wouldn't just take the points sometimes, Ole Miss I would go back and look at it, and I mean, they got dominated by Bama, but I believe it's because they weren't taking points. There was early points in the game where
first drive of the game,
you take the points. Yeah, you just take the points, man. You take the points. You take what you can get. It builds momentum, and so I think that affected them in the end. But I think they're humming at the right time. Like you said, they only have Vandy next, and then after Vandy, they have the Egg Bowl, which I think is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. So I still think they went out over the next two. And then my last one, I took Michigan versus Penn State on the under 48.5. I knew they were at State College, Beaver Stadium. I knew the weather was bad. It was raining for a little bit. And I'll say this, obviously I'm a Michigan fan, and there's going to be Michigan bias, so I'm gonna take my time to spend on them. I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, Real B Holmes, I go on. Me and Trey, I was laughing about our differences of tweeting during our games. Trey doesn't really tweet during his game. I tweet a ton during my games. I tweet a ton. It's an array of motions, man. It's an array. It's ups and downs. It's roller coasters. And so it's funny because so many people know I'm a Michigan fan. I get texts always during the game. And so, when I said it during my tweets, I've said it every week. If you Michigan has this problem of letting teams hang around, and that's when we collapsed in the Jim Harbaugh era. And we did. If you watch that game, outside of the first quarter, which they had to go for a fake punt, then they went for a fake field goal. Like, they were pulling all the stop. Give it up to James Franklin. He was coaching to win. But outside of that, Michigan just really dominated the football game, in my opinion. They did exactly what Harbaugh loves to do. 7. Aiden Hutchinson should get invited to the Heisman Trophy. He's a consensus All-American this year. He's going to be, I think, on Mel Kiper's big board, the number 3 pick right now. Only guy he's behind is the guy out of Oregon who hasn't played much.
Thibodeau or whatever.
Thibodeau, yeah. Aiden is a beast. But then on the other side, man, David Ojabo. Cool story, man. The guy was born in Nigeria, moves to Scotland, ends up coming to New Jersey to the Blair Academy to play like basketball or something like that, and picks up football like 3 years ago. The kid is leading, I think, the Big Ten in sacks right now. He's had such a big year. Mel Kiper put him this past week as the number 10 pick coming out of this year's draft. 6'5", 255 pounds. The kid is a freak. I think right now, and this isn't biased, I think Michigan has the best bookends in the country right now at defensive end. Between Ojabo and Hutchinson, because Ojabo has 10.5. He has 10.5, 11 sacks, I think. So, anyways, I didn't think it was I thought it was gonna be a road grinder. And shout out to Michigan, they did what they were supposed to do. They won, how they were supposed to win. Dare I say this, Trey? And then we can move on to our other segments. Dare I say this? Dare I say this? Now I'm still salty about the Michigan State loss because I've watched them play ever since, and if we don't get robbed of that touchdown at the end of the half, I believe we win that game. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, whatever. It's a loss. We have to take it. But I've watched Ohio State. They're very vulnerable on the defensive side of the ball. The deficiency gets masked because you have video game numbers on the offensive side of the ball. But here's my caveat. CJ Stroud, I don't love him, and I've said that since week 0. I don't love that kid. I don't think he's bad. I think he's a freshman, so he's still young. I think this. I'm not saying we're going to win the game. I'm saying this, though. I think the game will be more competitive. I think, though, Michigan has the real chance to win this year out of any year because of this one reason. You have you have the best defensive end duo in the country right now. Between Aiden and Ojabo, you got almost 20 sacks. Mm-hmm. Then Hassan Haskins, as a running back, the dude ran for 109 yards in the second half yesterday. That team's gaining momentum. They're running the football hard, and that's playing right into Jim Harbaugh's hands and Ohio State's weakness. I can see if in the game Michigan can play ball control and get a couple sacks or make one big play on defense. They got to make that one big play. I think they can walk away with that game. They have enough pieces everywhere. Cade McNamara has only taken 3 sacks this year. He's only thrown 2 interceptions all year. He's cool. We got enough speed on that. We don't have Ohio State speed, but we have enough speed on the outside. And then you got Blake Corum coming back off the injury because he's probably going to sit out next week. I'm not saying we'll win, but I think this might be the best team that has the opportunity to knock Ohio State off their high horse. So I'm not claiming
Where's
it.
that
but
game?
I'm saying
Where's that game being played?
It's at the Big House.
Okay. Yeah.
It's at home. The momentum's rolling. These kids have come back down twice from being down in the fourth quarter and scored on a game-winning drive. In tough environments at Nebraska and at Penn State, they believe, and we know momentum is everything in college football. It's something about this team that believes that they're that good.
Right.
So we'll see, man. We'll see. But anyways, I got that Michigan and PSU under 48.5.
Well, B. Holmes, go ahead and do your surprise because my last surprise perfectly leads into my first disappointment. So I'm just going to go back to back on surprise, disappointment, overrated. So go ahead and do your surprise. Tell us what was your biggest surprise from the weekend?
My biggest surprise for the weekend, it was tied. It was tied. So I'm going to mix them because they kind of both hand in hand. OU and Texas. This is why my biggest surprise. I text you when Texas lost the game last night. They had not lost since 2008. 2008. Bro, we're talking, 13 years now. You have not lost, that you gave that up. I am so shocked at how bad Stark has this team just finishing games. I am so surprised. All this money, you get rid of Herman, who was okay. He's not elite, but he was okay to go to this guy who I don't think really had a lot of proven leadership, right? So I'm really shocked at how abysmal Texas looks in the second half. It's like clockwork. It's like Tebow time in reverse. You remember when Tebow used to be down and then he hits the switch and Florida comes on? It's like Texas is up and then they hit the switch and they just go downhill. And it's like at this point it's psychological. Like as a former athlete, not a football player, but track and field is all mental. The moment you're gone here, it's over. And I think that's where those kids are. They get into the here we go again. Here we go again. And as you start doing that, the pieces fall. Now, the other thing that was my biggest surprise this weekend, and I think it's funny, if you remember week 1 or week 2 in Norman, the OU crowd is, we want Caleb. We want Caleb.
Yep.
They did it for weeks. Lincoln pulls the trigger, brings in Caleb. We have the best Red River shootout we've probably seen in a long time. It was a great game. He's balled out the next week against West Virginia. Saved the game with the miraculous play against KU. But then all of a sudden, playing Baylor yesterday, what do you hear from these OU fans? We want Spencer. We want Spencer. And so my biggest surprise is, man, how finicky, and it's not just OU fans, it's all fans, but how finicky OU is. I think that move that Riley pulled yesterday that surprised me lost the locker room. Caleb Williams is the heartbeat of that team. I've watched him play. I've watched him play a couple times. That team goes as he goes. And in that moment, I get you trying to find an offensive spark, but you're pulling off the guy who gave you that spark midway through the season. And it was surprising to me because I'm thinking, like, are you willing to risk the shakiness of your true freshman quarterback's confidence and not letting him ride through a hard game? Because as a quarterback, you're going to have a hard game. What did that, like, I'm so surprised that he did that, because I'm like, what are you communicating to your team at that point? Like, you made the big pool. We understand Spencer had to go. Caleb had to play. And Caleb, for the most part, has saved your season. He saved it.
Yeah.
He saved it. And so you were willing to, like, not ride it out because the kid's dynamic. And when I saw him pull him out for Spencer for that series or two, I was like, I don't know if I agree with that, because Caleb Williams has that type of dynamic talent that, man, one scramble could have changed the game for him. You know, we've seen him get hot. He's played slow, and then one play, it's like he gets the moxie. He just needed that confidence play. And so that was really surprising to me that he went back to Spencer. And I think that kind of just discombobulated any attempt at a return. So that was really my biggest surprise this weekend, honestly.
Well, you kind of hit on some things, obviously, that I as well was going to get into, and I'm still going to, because it's a little bit different from what your perspective was. But my first surprise, I want to bring this back in because we were talking about them early on at the beginning of the podcast, at the beginning of the season, and kind of haven't for the past several weeks, and that's Jackson State. So I don't know if you happened to catch any of that. I was kind of following it lightly through the updates, but then they actually had the replay of it late last night, and by the time I finished everything I had to do with our SI stuff, it was super late and I was wired, and so I started watching it. And you know, that game, Southern almost won, and they were up 2 possessions with like 5 minutes remaining in the game, and Shedeur Sanders led 2 touchdown drives for a comeback win, and I think they ended up beating them 21-17. And then to seal the game, Shiloh Sanders had an interception on 4th down, which was kind of like Southern's last. They had time, so it wasn't like it was just a Hail Mary, but it was a play that, you know, had they converted, they would have had a chance to continue going down to win, and Shiloh Sanders picked it off to seal the win. So they're 9-1 now. They've got 1 game left, and they've already
Alcorn.
Yep, and they've sealed their division, so they'll play in the SWAC championship. And then I think one of the big talking points that's coming up, I know even Coach Prime is bringing up, even though he's kind of been out. He was actually on the sidelines in his wheelchair with if you hadn't been following that, he had a pretty big surgery on his foot. And I think what I think happened was he tried to come back too soon, and then something more severe surfaced. I don't want to sit here and say what it was or wasn't. I know what I think it was, just knowing what that type of coming back from that type of surgery could potentially do. But so he was back in the hospital, but it was good. He was on the sidelines in his wheelchair. There's a pretty cool video of him and Shedeur embracing after the game. It was kind of this cool coach quarterback moment, but then like father son moment. So anyways, they have an obligation to play in the Celebration Bowl, which negates them from being able to play in the FCS playoff. And so I'm curious to see now with Dion being over there, how that may or may not change with the noise that he's making. And because people are going, well, hold up, you put this team in the FCS playoff, like they've got the potential to go make some noise. Well, and they got the potential to like go make some noise there. But hey, they're on track. I mean, they could potentially finish the season 12-1 in his first full season. And then there is some smoke around him being at the top of TCU's short list. I don't see it happening, but man,
me neither.
I would love it, not from the sake of, pull him away from everything he's trying to do and build for the HBCUs, but just from I would love to see that dude, 1, back in Texas, and 2, in a Power 5 conference, because I think he would do the same thing as far as changing the game up that he's doing where he's at right now. And anyways, but I doubt it happens. I think he's too invested where he's at. I think he's built too much of a platform.
Yeah, we talked about this. Remember, we said this was a purpose move for him, and he's very committed to purpose. I think he's committed to this. Not to cut you off, I think he's committed to this part here, though. I think he's committed to getting Jackson State into into FBS. I think he's committed to it. I think that's his goal. He's made comments about it before when the Big 12 was restructuring, like, give us a call. Like, I don't know if you ever saw a couple weeks ago when they played the Classic, he posted the graphic of his attendance versus, like, a bunch of other schools that were FBS schools, and how Jackson State had an attendance of 55,000, which is it's a sold-out crowd for them with 55,000. So I think he's committed to getting Jackson State to FBS level at some way, shape, or form. I think that's the move for him.
Well, and I agree. I also know that Prime likes his money too, and TCU's got a lot of it, more than what most people might think.
That's true.
And not saying that you can buy him out of his purpose, but I'm just saying, like, you can still fulfill a special purpose, at TCU and make multi-millions more.
Make a whole lot more money.
But I agree. I don't think he's leaving. I think even before the FBS, I think he would like to just get them to where they can compete for an FCS national championship. Like, let us in the playoff. Let us, So next surprise, I'm going to shout out my Hogs beating LSU. I really,
yes, sir.
I know we should have won because we were the ranked team, and LSU's just been abysmal this year. They've been a roller coaster, but we've said it since they've been in this stretch. Depending on who shows up for LSU, like, they've got the dudes. And I knew we were going to struggle up front, which we did, but we found a way to win. Found a way to win in overtime. Got a big kick. Monterick Brown, defensive back from Ashdown, Arkansas, had a huge interception in the end zone for LSU's first possession of overtime, and then we were able to convert that into a game-winning field goal. But my surprise is this. Arkansas, at the tail end of Bielema through Chad Morris, I think won a total of 8 games. Okay?
Oh, wow.
And Pittman now, in just his second year, we could realistically finish 8-4 going into a bowl game looking to go 9-4. Say we get blown out by Alabama, but we got Mizzou to end the season, and that's a winnable game. Now, it's a winnable game for us every year, but we can't ever seem to win it. But I do feel good this year that, like, we've got them at home. I think we take care of business. I think we finish 8-4, get a quality bowl game, and have a chance to win 9 games for the first time since 2011. Bielema never won more than 8 games in a season, and he did that once. And so you look at his era combined with Morris's era, and I think what Pittman's been able to do for our program in just his second year is pretty amazing, and it's been fun to watch as a fan. And then I've got my last surprise, similar to yours, was the Kansas Jayhawks. They got that cat from Buffalo, who had a lot of success as the head coach up at Buffalo. He's come in. I think he's in his first year at Kansas. And what a statement win. But at the same time, you go, is it a statement win when you look at how much in shambles Texas is? And that's really what gets into my first disappointment. My first disappointment is Texas, okay? And here's my take on this. It is very similar right now. Like, I am having flashbacks to when Arkansas hired Chad Morris. And his first season was just abysmal. It was awful. I mean, hitting lows lower than, Sark losing to Kansas, because at least Kansas is a conference Power 5 opponent. But watching the fan reaction is almost identical to what Arkansas's fan base did. Half of the fan base was going, it's just his first year. Bielema ruined the program. He's got to come in and rebuild it from the ground up. He deserves a second year. Yeah. And then you had the other half going, this guy ain't it. Like, this guy ain't it. We need to cut our losses now, get rid of him, and bring someone in here that can turn this thing around for real. And I'm seeing the same thing with Texas, is you've got fans going, oh, Tom Herman destroyed the program. Tom Herman destroyed the program, which is crazy to me because Tom Herman won the Sugar Bowl. He won the Sugar Bowl. Like,
Right.
I'm not saying he's this genius coach that was going to take Texas to national prominence, but how do you say he destroyed the program? Look at Texas's recruiting, and this is what drives me crazy about Texas fans, is that they recruit well every single year. Every year of the Charlie Strong era, every year of the Tom Herman era, and right now of the Sarkisian era. That, to me, the issue with Texas is not the head coach. There are some bigger problems with that program that are far and above the program, which I've talked about either on this podcast or on one of our Fish Report videos. And the bottom line is until that stuff gets situated, whether it's the boosters, whether it's the administration, whatever it is, that is either too hands-on or not hands-on enough with that program, you're just going to continue to get a rinse and repeat every single year. And I'm concerned, though, that maybe Sarkisian's not like the savior everybody thinks he is. You should not lose to Kansas, bottom line.
Never.
And in hindsight with Chad Morris, I was one of the guys in Chad Morris's first year going, no, he needs to get his guys in there. He needs to get his guys in there. And then his second season when he lost to, like, I think it was San Jose State, I'm going, oh my goodness, okay. I can't keep defending it. I'm out. And there were just some things that were happening where he had just lost the locker room. And anyways, but then you bring in a guy like Pittman, who already in his second year, this is really like his first season. I mean,
because he had COVID,
and then you had to play a 10-game conference schedule. I mean, but even at the preseason of this season, Arkansas had the toughest schedule in the nation for the second year in a row.
Yep.
And after 10 games into the season, we're 7-3. Like, that's crazy to me. But I don't know. I think that I don't know if Sarkisian's the guy for Texas, but I also don't think that, like, just going and finding a new head coach is what's going to solve their problems. I think there's some much deeper problems over there. And I think Charlie Strong was a victim of it. I think that Tom Herman was a victim of it. And I think now we're seeing early on in Sarkisian's tenure that he's becoming a victim of it. And I don't know. I'm not a big, like, Texas fan, so I'm indifferent. But my goodness, they just lost to Kansas. I think that was the first time Kansas had ever beat Texas in Austin. Like, in the last time Texas lost to Kansas, their head coach was fired, I think, at the end of the season, and that was Charlie Strong. This is the first time since the 50s Texas has lost 5 games in a row. I mean, something's got to change, and I'm not so sure that it's the head coach change that's going to fix their problems. I think there's some other things going on, but anyway, so that's my take on that. And then obviously OU was a disappointment, but you already hit on that. And then my other one I want to give, it's more of a shout out to the team that upset them. And that's my disappointment was Iowa State. I'm never going to miss an opportunity to talk about Iowa State when they do something disappointing. But hey, how about the Texas Tech Red Raiders, man? Hired their new head coach. He's not coaching yet, right? Cumbie is the interim and is going to finish the season. But he's recruiting his behind off. He's winning the press conference. Here's my quick hot take on Coach McGuire. I think he's the perfect hire for Texas Tech. Where I think he will rise or fall, and you could really say this about any head coach. But I look at like someone like Chad Morris, who I felt was the perfect hire for Arkansas when he got hired. And you know, it's revisionist history. I consider an act like, oh, I knew that. No, I did not. The guy that went 4-20 and did not win a conference game over 2 years, I felt like when he was hired was going to be the perfect fit for our program. I did. I thought his Texas ties, I thought his energy, I thought his attitude, I thought his how he commanded himself or presented himself and all those things. Where I think he ultimately went wrong, and there's a lot of different things people have to say about what went wrong with him. But for me, it came down to the staff he surrounded himself with. And because the dude could recruit. You can't take that away from him. He got some strong recruiting. Well, the one he was there for, the one full cycle he was there for was one of the best recruiting classes in Arkansas history. But where he in my opinion, shot himself in the foot with that job was who he surrounded himself with. And so I think someone like Coach McGuire, who's very similar, he's got deep Texas ties, had tremendous success as a Texas high school football coach and as a assistant at the Power 5 level. Allow yourself to stay in your lane, be the culture builder, which everyone knows Coach McGuire is, and then just go find some great assistant coaches. And now, granted, when you're at Texas Tech, you're not having to scheme week in, week out against Nick Saban. And, I guess that was also LSU when they had their dream season. Right. Auburn was rolling with Gus Malzahn, one of those seasons in there. Georgia was well, I guess we never really had to play Georgia during the Chad Morris, and he lost games we should have never. So I'm not trying to make the direct comparison. I'm just saying they both have similar backgrounds. And now that McGuire is in a position to, really change a culture and really possibly get Texas Tech back to where they haven't been since Mike Leach was there. And I think he's the guy that can do it. I just think that he's gonna have to surround himself with some real quality coaches. I wouldn't be shocked if he brings in a couple other high school Texas coaches, Texas high school coaches on his staff. I think that would be a wise move. I'm gonna go ahead and say it, man. I would love to see a guy like Joe McBride go be like his linebackers coach or D-line coach or whatever, coach because McBride, man. I would love it. And McBride's a Tech guy. He's kind of a legend in the state of Texas, and that dude is just a great coach. But anyway, so
he is.
Shout out to Texas Tech, man. Big win over Iowa State. They just lost their head coach. They hired a new one. They got Sonny Cumbie, who's filling in as interim. And Cumbie has even said, I'd love to stay as the offensive coordinator. So he's coaching with some juice right now because he'd love to stay. And I don't think that would be a bad move. I think it would be a great move. I think it would be too. I think you bring in McGuire's energy and the passion and the culture he's going to usher in, and you allow Cumbie to keep running his scheme, and then you bring in like some high quality defensive coaches. Watch out. Tech might be making some noise in the Big 12 in a couple years, especially after OU and Texas leave. But so that's all I got. I mean, B. Holmes, we're at the True Minute Drill, and here's what's crazy. I'm just going to kind of let everybody know. We do not have a planned True Minute this week. We were talking about it kind of over the weekend. We were talking about it even before we hit record. And I said, let's just see if somewhere in the episode something hits us. And I have an idea I'm gonna throw off of you right here live as we're recording this thing. It's been a crazy 2 months. Not even just of college football, but just of us in this new journey of podcasting, and then from that to doing videos for the Fan Nation, to writing articles for these team sites, whether it's the Grove Report, whether it's allhogs.com, whether it's Longhorn Country, All Aggies. I mean, just with now on Fish Reports YouTube, like, what if we just sound off on that? Like the last 2.5 months, I guess it's been, let's see, October. Yeah, I mean, 2.5 months now because we started week 0.
Yeah, we did.
You got 1 minute to just talk about how's this last. Everything. Yes.
How the ride's been so far. All right, cool, man. Yeah, let's roll.
Let me get the clock set here. And if
last
you've been
thing
listening,
you get the clock set, man. I want to say this though. I forgot to mention this in my disappointment. How in the world did Arkansas let Gary Buchanan, whatever his name is, get out of Arkansas and go to Baylor?
Bohannon? I have the answer to that.
Yeah, like how did that happen?
So here's
Earl, Arkansas?
Yes, Earl, Arkansas. He was came down to him and Connor Noland were the two top quarterbacks in the state. Now Connor Noland ends up just going, he's a straight baseball now.
Okay.
He throws like 90 plus from the mound. But they were both being recruited. So Brett Bielema, and everyone kind of knows the Brett Bielema offense, especially when he was at Wisconsin, Arkansas. It didn't really lend itself at all to a dynamic dual threat type quarterback, right? It was more of a pro style, traditional drop back. We're going to line up, we're going to pound the rock, and then we're going to do play action and try to hit you with a big play over the top here and there. So at the time, the quarterbacks that Bielema had were like Brandon Allen, Austin Allen. Shout out Brandon Allen, who's still currently in the league right now as a backup, who had a phenomenal senior year at Arkansas. And then Austin Allen had a really good junior year. And then I think his senior year, he just got annihilated because they couldn't protect him. Well, they ended up offering Connor Noland, got the commitment, and they just never recruited Bohannon. They just didn't recruit him. So Morris gets the job in December, and Bohannon is going to be an early enrollee. And Baylor's been on him hard, right? Like Matt Rule has been on him. Matt Rule was his recruiter too. I mean, there's another thing.
Oh, okay. That's a big part, yeah.
So Matt Rule's recruiting him, and the rumor is Chad Morris was trying to like do a last second like savior, like come coach, come be here at Arkansas. And I think it had something to do with Noland also being a take. And I don't want to get in and start saying rumors because I don't know if any of it was fact. But the bottom line was by the time Arkansas really started recruiting him heavy, which was Chad Morris for about a week and a half before the early signing period.
Got you.
He was long gone to Baylor. And nobody could blame him. It wasn't one of those deals where like the state of Arkansas was like, he's a traitor. No, I mean, it was kind of like, we didn't recruit him. Bielema did not recruit the guy. And he went to Baylor, and now you look at what he's doing. I'm all for it. I love seeing him do what he's doing. And
slide.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'll also say this. Now where we're at, I like our quarterback situation better. So I'll take KJ over him every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So, and you can disagree with me. Anyone can. That's fine. But like KJ's my guy, dude. I mean, he's shown he's a freaking warrior this year, and I think the future is bright for him. So, all right, True Minute.
Awesome.
Last 2.5 months. If you've been from the beginning, we go start on the whistle, end on the buzzer. B. Holmes, you're up first. I got the clock ready. Here we go.
I think if I can sum up the last 2.5 months into just a minute is to everything works together for your purpose and for your good. A lot of you guys might not know our backstory or know my backstory. Is, man, I've spent the last 12 years working full-time in ministry. I've been on missions trips. I've spoken on stages. I've been on cameras. I've spoken in small groups and all these other things, all that have prepared me for, I believe, this one moment on this podcast. It allowed me to articulate my thoughts. It's allowed me to put together great pieces. It's allowed me to feel comfortable in front of a microphone. So I'll say all that to say this to people as a motivational piece. Everything you're going through is for a reason. It's ultimately for the next step. Everything that I experienced in the last 12 years, I believe, has been for this moment and the things that are coming behind it. So no season is wasted. No opportunity is wasted as long as you don't waste it. And if you take advantage of it, you'll be prepared for when the moment comes. Because when the moment came, because of my past, because of my history, because of what I've been doing for the last 12 years, I was fully prepared for what was ready and in front of me. And so take advantage of where you're at. Don't look down on it, but embrace what comes with each season, because that season is preparing you for the rest of your life. And that's how I feel about what's going on in these last couple months.
I had to let you I let you go over because you were just killing it. I was like, I can't hit the buzzer. I can't hit the buzzer on this.
I was like, where? And you know, because I'm on stage, obviously for the last 12 years, I know a minute in my head. And I was like, man, this feels longer than a minute.
Longest minute ever.
Yeah, I'm like, because you get, you know how it is. You have an internal clock. You're like, okay, I kind of got an idea where a minute finishes. So I'm like, why isn't the buzzer going off? And I was like, all right, man, I guess I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Guess not. Yep. Oh man. So, okay, let me get mine going. That was good stuff. Start on the whistle, end on the buzzer. Man, so for me, this is crazy because just got this idea. You've already alluded to our background, kind of what what we cut our teeth on, whereas you've been in ministry the last 10, 12 years. I shifted from working in student ministry to working in public education, and have had just a tremendous journey there, from a teacher and a coach to an assistant principal to a principal to now an essential administrator. And it's just been a heck of a journey. And now here we are, where something we started out, it was just for fun, just for kicks, just to see, hey, let's just enjoy it and do something we've always talked about doing. And then all of a sudden, like, Mike Fisher's calling us. And then all of a sudden, we're making videos for these Sports Illustrated sites. And then all of a sudden, we're writing articles. And that's, for me, I think when you're doing something you're supposed to be doing, even though it starts to get hard and even though it starts to become a grind, don't give up. I'll say this right here because this is what I was thinking about this morning. And we normally don't do this on this podcast, but don't grow weary in well-doing, for in due season you will reap a harvest. And I'm talking to myself when I say that. That comes straight out of the good book. It's Galatians 6:9. If that is, whether that is or isn't your cup of tea, bottom line is it's a life principle that's applicable to anyone and everyone in all walks of life. Don't grow weary in well-doing, for in due season you will reap a harvest. And there's the buzzer. That's it. I went over as well. B. Holmes.
It's the student ministry in us, man. We don't know how to stay within time ever. We don't know how to stay in time ever. Actually,
some people are going to be like, wait, these guys were youth pastors? What? Hold up.
Right.
I kind of like the little inspirational true minute drill. We may need to, like,
we need to bring some of those back, man.
Yeah, keep that going.
I like those.
So
I like those. Well, guys, you know what it is. Hey, before you leave, before you check out, make sure you follow us on our social medias, man. Twitter, I'm at Real B Holmes. Trey's at It's Trey Smith. You can follow us on IG, the same thing. But on IG and TikTok, follow Blue Bloods College Game Time. That's Blue Bloods CGT at Blue Bloods CGT. I'm working up on some ideas how we're going to enhance our social media page and kind of bring some life to that. But most importantly, guys, subscribe to Fish Sports if you aren't already.
Yes,
Uncle
sir.
Fish, man, has shown us so much love. I think a principle for me and Trey has always been honor, man. So we honor those, man, who just truly, I mean, whether you look out for us or not, it's whatever. But I want to honor Uncle Fish, man, who's just really, he don't know us from Tom or Dill down the street and just kind of gave these two young guys, like, were hungry for it and said, hey, man, I like you. Let me throw you up there. So go subscribe to Fish Sports. I mean, if you like the Cowboys, he has stuff there. They got some stuff with SMU. There's a bunch of stuff going on at Fish Sports. So, man, hit the subscribe button and, man, we love you. So, hey.
And I'll say this real quick,
B.
Holmes.
Oh, yes.
Hey, before you hit them with the closing tagline, I do want to say this because I'm like most people who are probably either listening or watching this right now where your only exposure to Mike Fisher is you listen to him on 105.3 The Fan, or you watch his Fish reports on YouTube, or you follow his Twitter account, or like I used to, like and to this day I eat up the Dallas basketball.com, which is the Maverick Sports Illustrated page that used to not even be on Sports Illustrated. It used to be on another platform, and I've been following his stuff since then. And like, I'll just say this as someone who has just always been a fan and followed his coverage. He's the most, like, down-to-earth dude.
Yeah.
Like, he has every right to be Mr. Big Shot, especially with, like, me and you. I mean, who are we to him? He's been nothing but helpful. He's been nothing but trying to help us grow our platform and teach us how to, even if it's just how to tag something for Google, even if it's just how to, like, word something. And so shout out Uncle Fish. I'm not trying to be all up over his, all on his jock or anything like that. But you use the word honor, and like, it's true. We're on his channel. If you're watching this full episode from his channel, I mean, we're just like you, man. We're just two sports fans, two particularly college sports fans. I've always been a fan of Mike Fisher and following his coverage of the Cowboys, Mavericks, and listening to what he has to say on the radio. And now here we are. So, that's all I got.
We got love for. Hey, I haven't even met Mike. I haven't even met Uncle Fish in person. So that just shows you what kind of guy he is, man. So we're thankful. But guys, we love you. Enjoy the week, man. We have 2 more weeks of college football, but college basketball is here, baby. Yes. So stay tuned. We got so much going on with college basketball. We won't stop. We're picking up steam. We're rolling hard. So hey, enjoy your wins this week. Sulk in your losses, and enjoy the rest of your week. Until next week, guys. Oh. Look up we're dropping content this week. We know we didn't last week, but we're going to drop content this week. Tuesday.
Yes, we are.
Tuesday, college football planking results. All right, we're out. We out. Peace.
Peace.